I'll show you how to configure the Oracle database to work seamlessly with Power BI SSO integration. There are two ways to configure the database for integration for Power BI. One is just for Power BI users accessing it, and that's a much simpler configuration. There is no Azure AD configuration required. It's just a simple configuration in the database and then with Power BI. The database has to be set with exclusive mapping for every Power BI user to the database schema. On the other hand, you could also configure this for the Azure AD OAuth 2 SSO access, which also allows Power BI users to access the database in the same seamless manner. But with this, you also have to do app registration for the database and the client. And so to be able to use and access the database using OAuth 2 tokens from things like SQL Plus or SQL Developer. The Power BI users are still mapped exclusively. However, the OAuth 2 Azure users can be mapped using shared or exclusive mapping. To figure out how to do the simpler configuration for Power BI, just keep watching this video. And for the Azure AD OAuth 2 access, watch the videos at this link on the right. There are only two steps required to configure the Oracle database for Power BI SSO access, and that's to enable the database for this access and then create a mapping for the Power BI user to a schema in the database. This is a global schema. And when you enable a database, there's two ways to do it. One is for the autonomous database, and the other is for all of the databases. For all the other databases, including on-prem, you run two different alter system commands, one for identity provider type and the other for identity provider config. For autonomous database, they wrap it into one DBMS Cloud admin command, but it essentially has the same values. And you notice the values here look like dummy values, the 111-111-111. They are, and you could just use that. There is no actual tenant ID, application ID you need to enter here, but you do need to enter something. And this is when you're doing the OAuth 2 integration with app registration, then those values will go in here. But for Power BI registration, a Power BI integration, you don't need values, you just need these dummy values. Now we need to map a user for the Power BI user, and you create database user, Alex schema in this instance, identified globally as the Azure user. And then you create and grant a session, privileges and roles that you need to the schema. It is no global role in this particular integration. Now let's do a short demo that just shows what we just talked about. I'm going to go ahead and connect as the admin of the autonomous database. And enable the database for external authentication. Here it is, and then again, here's the same dummy values I had on the PowerPoint. And we'll take a look at the parameter, identity provider type, and now it shows up at Azure AD. Now we need to create the user mappings. And create a member to grant any roles and privileges you need for that user. That's it. Very simple to configure the database for Power BI access. Now to configure the Power BI side, watch the YouTube linked here.